Hey, just to preface things, this video is kind of terrible. I didn't really realize until I was editing it, but I'm kind of all over the place. I make a lot of really unconvincing non-points, and it's just generally not really up to par with what I would consider the very best that I've done on this channel. I'm still going to upload it just because, you know, a video is a video, and a bad video or a subpar video is better than none at all. But please do bear that in mind, especially if this is like your first time watching me. This is I've done better than this. Yeah, I know this is like the third Godzilla video I've made in a row. This is becoming my fallback topic when I can't think of anything else to make a video about. Also, not to try and resuscitate a dead horse, but if you got 2 hours to spare, check out my Doki Doki Literature Club review. It's really good and not enough people are watching it. Not a ton of people watching something that you put a lot of time and effort into does not a happy enemy make. So, go do your part after you're done watching this video, and for now, let's move on to the main subject at hand. Godzilla, the terrifying, destructive, wrathful monster known for laying waste to civilization, killing countless innocents, and just generally being a pretty bad dude. He's in many ways a villain protagonist, a character that, while technically the main character and focus of his story, is also not a force for good in the slightest, being amoral at best and downright immoral at worst. For as cool as he is, there's no denying it. Godzilla is a bad guy, and he knows it. Or at least he used to. For a while now, it seems like there's been this odd resistance towards making Godzilla a villain, and even when someone has tried to take a stab at it, it's either really poorly done or very half-hearted. There are a few different reasons for this which I'll get into and speculate on, but before I do that, I want to make something very clear. I don't have a problem with Godzilla being presented in the way he has been for the past few decades. I simply want future writers to not feel locked into thinking that's all he can be. Godzilla is a unique character, partially because of his elasticity and ability to be whatever you make him. And I feel like, as of late, we've been missing that. Let's dig deeper. First, I think it's common knowledge at this point that Godzilla's personality was never really static. Godzilla's gradual 21-year transition from a tragic villain that was twisted into what he was by the much greater evil of nuclear weapons to a superhero-like defender of Earth over the course of the Showa series is the stuff of legends. But I don't necessarily think that cemented the modern idea of Godzilla as much as what would come later, because after the Showa series wrapped and Godzilla returned in 1984, he was back to being a bad guy again. So obviously people weren't opposed to this idea that Godzilla could be portrayed in a different light depending on the incarnation, and he would continue to be portrayed in this light for the next 3.5 out of the next 6 Heisei films. As they went on though, a certain perception started to form. He started being seen as less of a character and more of a force of nature. That term has practically become my trigger word when talking about this character, because even after the Heisei series wrapped, that perception of Godzilla as basically just a hurricane on legs has just refused to go away. What's this Godzilla? I don't know, he's a force of nature. What about this one? What's his story? Same, I guess. Okay, how about this one? Are we gonna do something new with this one? Yeah! Okay, what? I don't know, he evolves or some shit. Like, you see why I'm getting kind of tired of how common this is, right? It's beginning to seem really stock to just have all these incarnations that are virtually interchangeable. And yeah, sure, some things about them are different. The powers can be different, the designs are different, the origins are different, but all that's just a distraction from what should be the focus of any character, their personality. And let's talk about that, Godzilla's character, as in, whatever happened to him having any. Remember when kaiju were allowed to exhibit signs of their personality and actually be legitimate characters in their own right? The Monsterverse remembers, but Toho seems to have forgotten. Shin Godzilla, Godzilla Earth, and Godzilla Ultima all act exactly the same. They're all basically props that do nothing but walk in a straight line or stand still. Sure, they look cool, but they don't really do much of anything that interesting. Well, okay, mostly Godzilla Earth and Ultima don't do anything interesting. Shin is exempt, obviously. But hey, give Shin and Earth credit, at least they A, look pretty cool, and B, are still relevant to the plot of the movies they appear in. Ultima just sucks. He does almost nothing and barely even features in his own show. And I don't just mean he doesn't have enough screen time. I mean he feels so completely disconnected from the plot of this Godzilla show that it just makes me realize I should probably make an entire video on the show at some point. Stay tuned. Now, bear in mind that just because the incarnation of Godzilla itself falls flat, doesn't mean the movie or show as a whole is beyond saving. Shin Godzilla is still a very popular and well-regarded installment in the franchise for a variety of reasons, and honestly, this sort of dead inside version of the king could have worked if it was just a one-off thing that began and ended with this movie. But the anime trilogy and the Singular Point series are both rather maligned by a large chunk of the fanbase, and I do think a big part of that are both of their handlings of the title character. So what's the solution here? Well, it's actually pretty simple, and it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this video. Godzilla is a pliable character that can take on so many different forms and be whatever the story needs him to be. I guess I'm just kind of tired of it seeming like people have forgotten that, in favor of making him a mostly static character that doesn't vary much from version to version. In the same way an iconic character like Batman is so much more than just dark and edgy, and is in fact a moldable character that can be anything the writers want as long as it serves the story. Godzilla is very much the same way, so let's not forget that the next time we try and tell a story with him. Because if you really think Godzilla is just a natural disaster personified, and there's nothing more to him than that, then I'm afraid you've just missed the point. Thank you for watching, have a great day, and until next time, see ya. Also, I really didn't like Singular Point, so if you want to see a full review of that series where I go in depth about why, just let me know. It's totally up to you, but feel free to tell me. So obviously people weren't opposed to this idea that Godzilla could be portrayed in a different light depending on the incarnation. Hold on.
Yes. You awake? Yeah. Yeah. Alright. First of all, alright. Second, so we're cooking upstairs, alright? And we need to leave for like an hour. Yeah. If that works for you. Do you think you can make sure the house doesn't burn down? Like, you don't need to be upstairs, it's in the oven. Okay. Like, I don't know, just like, you know, go upstairs and check on it. Like 30 minutes or whatever. 30 minutes, I'm doing that. How many things? Alright, see you. Yeah, and if, you know, you hear beeping or some bullshit, just call me. We're not gonna be like far away. I just need to, we're going on this. Okay, see you. Sure. Yeah, I'll do my best. He said come up in 30 minutes, that's fine.
Well, that was embarrassing.